Yo everyone, welcome to my predictions and breakdown of the entire UFC 322 Della Maddalena versus Makhachev fight card, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down every single fight on the card for you guys. I'll also be outlining potential bets I might place on the card, highlighting fighters that I feel extremely confident in, and also I will be highlighting potential traps on this card as well. But before we do get into the video, however guys, I will be talking about a few things regarding our results on last week's card, which was UFC Vegas 111, and that is something that I usually do. Of course, I usually do that at the start of prediction videos, but I also do want to talk about a couple of updates for the channel as well, and things to come for this week in general. Firstly, I did actually end up opening a Discord this week. It was something many people were asking about, and now I can finally say that it is up and running, guys. If you want to join the Discord, there is a link in the description of this video, and it's completely free to do, guys. I'm not charging anyone for anything in these prediction videos or any of my YouTube videos in general, and I'm not going to start right now. The Discord's completely free. Please join it, guys. I sort of just want it to be a place where people can meet other people from my videos that watch these videos, and it can also be a place where you can do other things. Like, you might be able to post stuff there, especially like post your subscribers bets of the week as well. I'm going to use it as an area you guys can do that too, and I would love to talk to a few of you guys. It would be awesome if you guys could join. I will also be posting my full card betting guide for this card sometime in the next couple of days, so please get your bets in by maybe either posting them on this video or now in the new Discord section titled Subscribers Bets of the Week. Lastly, before we break down last week's results, I do want to say that I have been streaming Fight Companions every single week for a while now, but this card in particular, guys, even though it might be the biggest and best card for a while, I might not stream it because I do want to spend it, watching it with my friends and family this time around. There is a chance maybe that if something comes up, I could stream for this card, but it is unlikely this time around, guys, so I'm sorry about that. But now as for my results, for last week's card, we went 7-5 on picks for UFC Fight Night Bonfim versus Brown, which isn't the greatest, but I actually was looking good for a while there. I was 6-1 going into the main card, and then proceeded to only get the co-main event pick of Joseph Morales correct after that, which did suck, I'm not going to lie. I did get 2 out of 3 of my confident picks for the card correct, which is good to see. You guys can see that on the left side of your screen. There were Josh Hockett, Ricky Simone, and Joseph Morales. To move on now to talk about how we did on bets, here on screen are all the bets I had on the card. I will now highlight in green all the bets that cashed, and in red all the bets that did not hit. And in the end, we ended up down around 1.5 units, like a bit under that, I believe, which isn't terrible, but it isn't good because it makes it a losing week. Of course, I went really heavy like on Randy Brown, if you guys can see, and I went really heavy on Muslim Salikov as well, and I sort of just need to cop that loss on the chin, hoping we can pull back on this week for a big win. I'm going very heavy on a few fighters as well again this week. Anyways, guys, to finally jump into the video, I'll be starting with the prelims and working my way all the way to the main event. Timestamps are in the description and the comment section below if you'd like to skip to any fight in particular. We're going to be starting with the first fight of the card, which is Viacheslav Borshchev versus Matheus Camilo. And honestly, if this was the me before the Terence McKinney versus Borshchev fight, I probably would have been likely to pick the underdog in Borshchev to get this one done, because I did actually pick him to win that fight with Terence McKinney, guys. I said that he would maybe weather an early storm against McKinney, and then after that he would be able to take over and win this through his technique in the striking and win the next 2 rounds to win a decision. But unfortunately, I just do think that it's really sunken into me on how much of a grappling advantage this guy really does have. And Matheus Camilo, although he's not the greatest prospect of all time, he's a young, growing fighter that is dangerous on the feet, and he's also very well-rounded with great grappling. And it's grappling that I think will be good enough to take down and control Borshchev for at least 2 out of 3 of the rounds of this fight. And this really does make it a very quick prediction for me, guys. And this might be a bit biased slightly because of me being slightly upset with Borshchev because of his recent performance. But I do really think that Camilo has what it takes to get it done here, potentially by submission on the ground. But I'm leaning more so towards decision victory with control time and submission attempts thrown in throughout the fight. Matheus Camilo is the pick for me, guys. Moving on to Baisangur Susurkaev versus Eric McConico. And I will say this. I remember thinking in Susurkaev's last fight that I thought he was too big of a favorite over Eric Nolan because of how Susurkaev fights and how heavy-handed Nolan can be. And ultimately, I was sort of right. If you guys watch that fight, Susurkaev was like being a bit cocky. He was moving forward a lot against Nolan, and then he ended up just getting caught by Nolan with a massive punch. I think it was a massive right hand, landed like right on the forehead or the temple of Susurkaev there, and it rocked him really badly at the end of the first round. But something that is important to remember about that fight is that fight was taken on 4 days' notice after a first-round finish over Murtaza Talha on the Contender Series. So Susurkaev had 2 fights in 4 days and still managed to get a very impressive finish in both of them. Like, in both fights, guys, with the finish over Eric Nolan being very impressive to me because I didn't think Eric Nolan was just some bum in the first place. And the fact that he got hurt by Eric Nolan and was able to recover very well and beat him in the second round by finish, it really does show that he's the real deal here, to me, in my opinion, guys. He's got a very slick style on the feet. He's very dangerous all around, and I do think he manages to get another KO victory over Eric McConico here. And it's not because I believe that Eric McConico is terrible or anything like that. It's just that I just don't think he's on the same level as Susurkaev, and like you can trust this from me, guys. Like, this is someone who picked Eric McConico as an underdog to beat Cody Brundage in his last fight. The guy's decently well-rounded. Like, I can say that. And he can be dangerous if the opportunity does present itself. But like I said, Susurkaev's just too much. He's too good everywhere. I don't see him being able to out-grapple Susurkaev. I don't see him being able to outdo him on the feet. And I just think the kicks of Susurkaev in particular, like his kicks, are going to cause way too much trouble for Eric McConico, in my opinion. Those front kicks to the body, they're so vicious. Like, I watched them back just recently, and it's really no wonder why he's hurting a lot of his opponents. Baisangur, Susurkaev is the pick for me, guys. I really do feel confident about him winning this one. I'm going to go with him by KO. That's my opinion, guys. Maybe in the second round in particular. Moving on to Angela Hill versus Fatima Kline. And I haven't gotten an Angela Hill fight correct since maybe the Luana Pinheiro fight, honestly, guys. And it's just hard for me to doubt her sometimes because she always seems very live as an underdog to me, but I'm willing to risk it here. And what I mean by that is that you guys can see that Fatima Kline is in my confident picks list as an addition there on the left side of your screen. I will be picking her to defeat Angela Hill, potentially by ground and pound TKO, but my official prediction will be by decision victory, since it's always very hard to rely on WMMA fighters to get a finish, and it's also combined with the fact that Angela Hill has never lost by KO in her career and has only been finished twice by submission. Fatima Kline, if she just fights smart here, guys, she should realistically be able to pressure forward with her striking, get down Angela Hill once she gets towards the cage side, and then be able to implement a grappling advantage like that to win the fight, guys. She really is a solid grappler, and I do think she has a big advantage over Hill in the grappling. But the only thing that really worries me, though, is if that Fatima Kline decides not to shoot much at all and only strikes with Angela Hill. If that does happen, I could see Angela Hill picking up another decision victory for herself, like coasting on the outside, picking apart Kline from range. But I even do think that will be harder for Hill to do because Hill's gonna be outranged here. Like, Kline is bigger, she's rangier, and even though Hill's the better striker, I think that's gonna cause some problems for her. She's also got the upside, guys. Like, when you talk about Fatima Kline, she's a young prospect. She's 25 years of age, whereas Angela Hill's almost 41 years old. Kline should win this one, guys. That's what I think. I wouldn't be surprised if she got it done here. Moving on to Pat Sabatini versus Chepe Mariscal. And now, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did think that Pat Sabatini was going to get absolutely destroyed in his last fight against Joanderson Brito. So, although I do think he did shock me a lot there, I can cop that incorrect pick on the chin and say outright that this is a very good win for him to have on his record. I may not have liked how he got that win and how he fought in particular, because he sort of camped half guard there, sort of stalled a little bit, but I still can respect him winning a fight I thought was pretty much a guaranteed loss for him. But to get back to the pick here, guys, I went and did some fight tape watching for this fight, and I really wish I could have found that fight tape of when they fought each other, guys, because they did fight each other once before, Victory FC back in the day, and I don't think many people knew that, but I did check the record, and I saw that loss there for Pat Sabatini, and I will say, though, that it must have been a competitive fight because it was a split decision win for Chepe Mariscal, but I will say, looking at the other fights, I still can't believe that Chepe is a plus 110 underdog here, in my opinion. I think that Pat Sabatini has nothing on the feet for a lot of guys, and Chepe Mariscal is going to have the volume and technique in the striking to outdo him sort of at every turn in this fight. And the only thing that sort of worries me for Chepe Mariscal here is, of course, the grappling and control of Pat Sabatini, but Chepe Mariscal isn't a sitting duck in the grappling as far as I know, so I think he should be able to stay safe in the grappling, get back to his feet if he's taken down, and be able to outpace and put on a volume and just flat out outdo Pat Sabatini here in this fight. Pat is very good though, but his striking has always been a worry for me, and Chepe is really solid. And something else about Chepe is that I do think that he might potentially run into a very dangerous striker in the division who could knock him out. I've seen enough highlights of him getting knocked out on the regional scene especially, and a lot of people probably suspect his chin is not that good, but I don't think Pat Sabatini is that guy to do that to Chepe Mariscal, at least in my opinion, guys. So Chepe Mariscal is my pick here, and I feel very decent about it. It might be one of the best underdogs you could possibly lean towards on this card, in my opinion. Moving on to Carl Daukaus versus Gerald Michaud, and if Carl Daukaus can knock out Michel Pereira as a massive underdog and can't finish Gerald Michaud, I don't know what I'm doing here, guys. I don't think I could ever pick MMA stuff again to happen. I don't think it makes sense to me. This should really be a finish by TKO for Carl Daukaus here. I will pick that to happen, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see him like somehow win a decision here against GM3, but regardless of what happens, I do not see GM3 winning a decision at all. Like, unless he submits Carl Daukaus here, he does not win this fight, in my opinion. And to back that up, I really couldn't think the last time of Michaud like winning a decision. So I went and checked his record, and I was pretty much spot on, guys. Like, the guy has no decision victories inside the UFC. I believe he's got 2 decision victories to his name, and they were all on the regional scene. So if you're thinking of picking GM3, guys, I'll give you a piece of advice. Pick him by submission. It'll give you the best odds, and it's more likely to happen than anything else. I just think that Carl Daukaus is a decent grappler. He should be able to stop the takedown attempts and sort of just put a beating on Gerald Michaud on the feet. And this isn't to say that Carl Daukaus is some sort of like prospect, crazy good fighter. I just don't think highly of Gerald on the feet as far as what I can see. And he can get some crazy submissions, don't get me wrong, but on the feet, he's a sitting duck, guys. I just need to be honest. Carl Daukaus by TKO is my official prediction for this fight. I'm going to say inside the first 2 rounds. And like I said, I just can't go with GM3. And if you watch the UFC like I do, you know how long GM3 has been around and how likable the dude is. I do like him, but I need to be honest, guys. I don't think he wins this one. Moving on to Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon. And I've said in my live streams recently that I'm going to try to start not second guessing myself as much as I do when I do these picks. So for that reason, I'm going to go with my gut pick and who I feel like should win this fight a good amount of the time, and that is Malcolm Wellmaker. And that's not just with my gut. I did do the research, and I also came to the same conclusion after watching fight tape. And I know from previous fight tape watching as well that I looked at like Malcolm Wellmaker, right? And I looked at his regional and amateur fights as well, and I was worried for him. Don't get me wrong, I was worried for him if he ever was to come up against a credentialed guy, or especially like a high-level dude with great grappling and cardio. I think that's probably his worst matchup. And this isn't to say that I'm rooting for his downfall or anything like that, or I don't think he's good. I actually do think that on the feet, he's got a few tricky things that make him extremely dangerous, on top of hitting incredibly hard. The dude hits very, very hard, guys, especially like, you guys know the combination, like that fake rear kick into like a step-in hook that he does. That's a fantastic combination, but it's also just to point out that he's not unbeatable. But at the same time, I also do think that Cody Haddon is not the one to beat him here. I keep picturing that combo that Wellmaker lands. The combo that I did mention right there, you know, the fake rear kick into the massive hook, the combo that knocked out Chris Moutinho, and I picture him hurting Cody Haddon with it, I'll be honest, inside the first 2 rounds and putting him away, because Cody Haddon looks like he can be exploited by a combination like that, in my opinion. I feel like strong hooks are going to do him badly in this fight. So that really is it for my prediction there, guys. I'm picking Malcolm Wellmaker by KO inside the first 2 rounds. But I do want to say that I wouldn't throw all my money on Malcolm Wellmaker here, guys, because it might be my Aussie bias sneaking in, but I do really think that Aussie boys have been showing up in bigger and bigger fights lately, and I think that Cody Haddon could potentially put on a crazy pace here, like I mentioned earlier, and if he doesn't get finished early on, there's a chance that he could make Malcolm Wellmaker tired later on, and then do well in the 2nd and 3rd rounds of this fight. Wellmaker is the pick, though. Moving on to Aaron Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. And listen, guys, like, whatever happens here, I think a good amount of the time in this fight will go to decision. I'm sure many people can agree on that. Both girls are quite tough as well, and it's hard to imagine anyone finishing the other here. But man, like, I've been someone who's been siding against Aaron Blanchfield a lot recently, and this is at least, I believe, in her last 3 fights that were scheduled. I'm not talking about her fights that's happened. I'm talking about all the fights that were scheduled, like the Manon Fiorot fight, the Rose Namajunas fight, and then she was scheduled recently to fight Macy Barber, and that fight was meant to go down, and then it got cancelled like during the walkout pretty much, and that was the first main event that's been cancelled as far as I know. But to get back to the point I was making, I've been siding against Erin Blanchfield a lot recently, and it's really mostly because of the striking. But she's a really solid grappler. Like, don't get me wrong, she's a really solid grappler. She's quite physical. There's a good chance that she just goes out there against Tracy Cortez and she's able to get her to the ground. She's able to control her for 2 rounds at least to get a decision win here. But like, I just don't care. Like, I'm just going to flat out say, I just don't care. I've seen my chance to pick an underdog here. I'm going to go with it. I think although there have been questionable things about Tracy Cortez for me recently, especially the fact that she's been wearing fake eyelashes inside the octagon, which is something that I fucking hate. I'm not going to lie. I really do hate it. I think it's crazy. I think they shouldn't be allowed at all. It just seems stupid to me. But regardless of all that, she really is a decent boxer with decent striking pressure and pace, with some really solid wrestling and grappling to round it off. And for some reason, I'm just feeling that Erin Blanchfield might end up struggling to control Tracy Cortez on the ground for as long as what she might want to do. You know what I mean? So she won't be able to control her as long as she might want to. And then in between those grappling exchanges, Tracy Cortez lands more damaging shots and then wins the fight by doing more damage on the feet. That's something that I just see happening. I went back and watched their fight in the Invicta promotion, by the way. This was a while ago. Tracy Cortez did manage to win their fight together 6 years ago by split decision, but I'll say it right now, I do think she won that fight pretty clearly, 29-28. I didn't think it was a split decision. But in that fight in particular, Erin was getting outdone on the feet, and she had to rely on the grappling exchanges in that fight. And she really didn't have much success with the grappling outside of the 3rd round, really, since Tracy did take her down in the 1st round, if I remember correctly, and then Erin Blanchfield sort of stalled out 4 minutes of this trying to get an armbar against Tracy Cortez. That was not going to happen. So apart from the 3rd round takedown and control that she had against Tracy Cortez, she sort of had her in like a mount position, took her back for a second there. She really couldn't get her down much in that fight, and she got reversed a lot herself in the process, in the grappling there. So regardless of what happens here, guys, the fight to go to decision seems pretty free to me, but I also am going to slightly lean towards the underdog here. In my opinion, I think it's going to go to the scorecards, but I think it's going to be a split decision for Tracy Cortez here. I feel like that's the best way to look at things recently in terms of looking at them from the damage aspect, because judges have been awarding fights recently that way on the decision scorecards. We've seen it, guys, in other fights. Tracy Cortez is the pick here, but it's a relatively close pick still. It's not the highest confidence pick, guys. Moving on to Roman Kopylov versus Gregory Rodrigues, and I just have to think, if Gregory doesn't fight stupid, he should be able to win this fight by out-wrestling and out-grappling Roman Kopylov here, since he just has the major BJJ and wrestling advantage in this matchup. I'm going to be picking Gregory Rodrigues to win this fight by decision, by out-grappling and controlling Kopylov on the ground for the majority of this fight. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I could even potentially see a submission win, but I do think a decision isn't a bad pick either. But something I do want to mention is that I just think that although I like Kopylov, and I do think there is a place for him potentially in the rankings one day, there are things he needs to improve on, and I don't think I can rely on his takedown defense here to hold up, and I don't think I can just rely also on his takedown defense combined with him being able to just chin Gregory Rodrigues here. I think both of those things would need to happen for him to win this fight, and I'm not saying it's impossible for him to do both. I could see it happening sometime, but I just don't think it happens the majority of the time. Plus, I will say that Gregory Rodrigues is actually quite decent as a striker himself, so I don't even necessarily think he needs to take this to the ground to necessarily do good in this fight, but I think it would be a lot easier for him to win this fight if he took it to the ground and with a lot less risk for himself as well. So Gregory Rodrigues is the pick here. Moving on to Bo Nickal versus Rodolfo Vieira, and I'm just going to say it how it is, guys. I'm not picking someone who lost to Andre Petroski, and I'm not picking that person who lost to Andre Petroski to beat Bo Nickal here, especially with how disappointed I am when I remember picking Rodolfo Vieira, and that might just be me being salty, but you know, I just remember watching him in that fight, and I just think he just didn't make the best decisions for himself there, and he's got quite a few problems overall as an MMA fighter, in my opinion. But like as a BJJ fighter, don't get me wrong, I think he looks fantastic, but mixing it in all together, I don't think he's anywhere near rankings material in my mind, and I do think that Bo Nickal is good enough and can improve enough one day to get into the rankings. So that's something I do want to mention. I think that this fight, you're going to see Bo Nickal not being afraid of any of the takedowns because, like I mentioned, Rodolfo cannot mix it up well. The guy struggles to get the fight to the ground, and I don't see him taking down Bo Nickal unless Bo Nickal maybe jumps for a guillotine or something like that. And the other thing I do want to mention is that I don't think Bo is going to be afraid of the knockout either, because Rodolfo really does not commit to shots. He doesn't really go to finishes either with his hands. Like, at least with his hands, he doesn't really finish guys. So Bo should really be scared of nothing at all here, in my opinion. He should be able to take Rodolfo down. He should be able to control him at points here if he wants to. And I do think he should be able to outpoint Rodolfo on the feet if he wants to as well. And for some reason, like, I'm leaning towards the point sort of fight here because I think this fight sort of goes a similar way to the Paul Craig fight with Bo Nickal, where we see like not much grappling, but Bo sort of like pieces him up on the feet a little bit. I could potentially see Bo getting a late rounds KO or submission as well, since I think he also has the chance of tiring out Vieira and then like putting a pace on him. But I am leaning towards a more safe Bo Nickal victory here by decision. Bo Nickal is the pick, guys. If he loses, like it would kill all hype for Bo Nickal, in my opinion. Like, his hype is already down, but this would like kill it dead, in my opinion. Moving on to the main card opener, Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis. And as much as people have been trying to convince me on picking Beneil Dariush in this matchup, I still can't get over my initial pick of Benoit Saint-Denis here, and I will explain on why that is. I also want to say that I don't think this pick overall is super confident. I can understand the reasoning behind people wanting to go with Beneil in this matchup. I understand it completely, but I just think that knowing how Beneil fights, it's really going to be hard for Beneil Dariush to beat Benoit, because unless Beneil somehow like chins him or somehow out-grapples him massively like Renato Moicano did, I don't think he's going to win this fight against Benoit. And with the grappling aspect, I think Dariush fights a lot differently than Moicano, guys. Like, a lot less wrestling control and ground and pound. He's more of a scrambler. Like, people do know this, guys. I actually think Benoit isn't terrible on the ground either. Like, that's something I do want to mention. And I think that I don't see Beneil doing what Moicano did to Benoit Saint-Denis in this fight and controlling him on the ground and destroying him on the ground overall. So if that's the case, guys, and I don't see that happening, and I see the fight being on the feet for a long time, and especially like being on the feet early on, I'm too worried for Beneil to be KO'd here. I think he gets KO'd in this fight, in my opinion, against the cage. I think he's going to get pressured back a lot in this fight. That's just my opinion, guys. Benoit just does not stop. We know this. He's not afraid to take shots, to give shots of his own. And that's a good thing for him as a pressure fighter, but it's also a worrying thing for him because he can get KO'd. We've seen him get KO'd. He can be rocked in quarter moments too. But against Beneil, I can't really see or rely on Beneil catching him on the back. And if he doesn't catch Benoit on the back foot, how is he going to stop anything that Benoit does in this fight here, guys? Like, I don't really know, guys. Like, in the end, these are all just my thoughts. Maybe if this was a Beneil from a few years ago, I would be talking differently. But just watching how Charles put heavy pressure on Beneil the way he did, and watching Beneil not being able to do much about the clinch pressure and being put on the back foot, it really makes it hard for me to side with him. And yes, I do know that Beneil did land on top of Charles and control him in that fight, guys, and people think he took Charles down, but in the moment that Charles got back to his feet, he finished Beneil immediately. Like, I'm talking immediately. And I can't think that Benoit is almost just going to pull Beneil on top of him in this fight like Charles did, because Beneil did not take down Charles Oliveira at the start of that fight. Charles sort of dragged him on top of him and pulled him onto top position there. Benoit is my pick for this fight, guys. I'm going to say he wins by KO in the first or second round. Moving on to Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates. And I will say a few things here. First of all, this video, you guys might never know, but I have re-recorded this video. The video recording initially took me like 50 minutes long, so I'm very tired right now. It's very late, and I was so frustrated. I've tried recording this now 3 times. The first time the file corrupted, so I'm a little bit frustrated, guys. So if it seems like I've been a bit phoned in at parts, like, just know that it might be slight frustration there. Like, so if you see this part, maybe leave a comment about it. Be appreciative in the comment section there. But I also do want to mention that I have reinserted into this script my 3 early predictions for this fight, the co-main event and the main event, guys, because I have not really changed my mind on those picks in particular. And if you haven't seen my early predictions for these fights in particular, I'm going to pretty much recite them word for word for you guys here right now. I think this is an absolutely insane fight. I want to get that out of the way. Like, I can't wait to see this fight go down. I do think potentially this could also be the end of Leon Edwards ever getting the chance to get a belt again, because I see Carlos Prates flatlining him in this fight. I don't think Leon Edwards has ever versed anyone even close to the striking or danger level of Prates, in my opinion. And this is saying that in knowing that he's versed Cowboy Cerrone. I think he's versed maybe Luque as well. But when I compare them to Prates, I just can't in terms of danger level. I know some people are big Cowboy fans. I'm a big Cowboy fan as well. He was top-notch back in the day, guys. He had great combos, but he always started off slow, and he was decently stiff in there. And something else about the Cowboy fight is, even in that fight, I believe that Edwards got rocked in the first round by a head kick, if I'm not mistaken, unless that was a fight with Brian Barberena, but I can't remember, guys. I just don't see this happening. I don't see him winning against Prates here. Like, I see Prates, if Prates catches him and hits him with a shot similar to any of those guys, he's putting him away for sure. I can guarantee you. I see maybe a competitive first round. Like, I'll say that. I see maybe Leon keeping a good range, trying to use his kicks at distance to control, to maybe win this fight by outpointing Carlos Prates. But I just think at some point, Prates is going to be pressuring in slowly, waiting to get in the clinch of Leon Edwards, and then he's going to start battering him with knees and punches as he gets back up more and more. I think he's going to need to use his grappling to the fullest to try to time solid entries on the takedowns against Prates here. Because if he doesn't, guys, I think Prates is going to start getting comfortable and start ramping up the intensity of the fight as soon as halfway through the round one. Like, I think it's going to happen that quickly. I don't see Leon Edwards being able to do like what Ian Gary did to Carlos Prates in this fight, guys. Carlos Prates by KO. In the later rounds, my official prediction, I think it happens in the second or third round. And I still am thinking that I'm going to say it starts with a knee to the body. That's what I'm thinking. I think the knee to the body is going to start the beginning of the end for Leon Edwards in this fight. Moving on to the feature fight of the card now, Sean Brady versus Michael Morales. And this is such an important fight for the division right now, because Sean Brady arguably should already be next for the title if Islam didn't move up a division, especially since Shavkat has been injured. And I will say, even with Shavkat, Brady probably deserves the title shot more. So whoever wins this fight is going to be next up for the title shot in my mind, and that really does get me excited to see this matchup, guys. And now that I have been thinking about this one for a bit and watching a bunch of fight tape on both guys, this is an extremely close fight. It's an extremely close pick. It's 50-50 in my head. I could see a world where Brady manages to look amazing with his takedowns, controls Michael Morales here extremely well, wins like maybe a decision doing that, or potentially even like a late round submission over Michael Morales. But I could also see a world where Michael Morales looks great with his takedown defense, like his long reach, his striking advantage, his power. It all causes issues for Sean Brady, and he's either able to win on like damage against Brady by decision, or he potentially even catches Brady and wins by TKO by putting him away here. I think come fight night, there is a chance that this fight is not competitive, guys, because if one of those things happens, like, for example, if the takedowns come easy for Sean Brady, or if Sean Brady finds it impossible to get some takedowns, both those things make for this fight being one-sided in either direction, in my opinion. I have seen Michael Morales pressured back before by other fighters, which is something that doesn't look good for him. It does worry me, especially since Brady might be the best wrestler and grappler he's ever versed. But at the same time, I don't think Brady will be able to pressure Morales back as much as he did against Leon Edwards, because Morales is just way more physically imposing. He's way more powerful. He's way more dangerous. You have to respect someone like Michael Morales when you're closing the distance against him. And I will say, although Leon Edwards is super technical, I don't think you're ever scared of the guy to like one-shot KO you with his hands specifically. So not having that fear in your mind helps you move more fluid. It helps you be more comfortable. I also think that Edwards landed some really nice shots. Like, if you go watch that fight back, he landed some nice punches. He landed some nice elbows against Brady. And if Brady was versing Morales and Morales was landing those shots, he would have got KO'd by Morales, in my opinion. So as of right this second, I will be slightly leaning towards the underdog and Michael Morales here to win this fight. I think officially I'm going to go with him to win this fight by KO. But by decision is a perfectly fine pick as well, and maybe even more likely here. It really is a close one, but I do see Morales being able to find his big shots, and I see him causing a lot of problems for Brady here, especially if he stuffs the first few takedowns. Moving on to the co-main event of the card, Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang. And now the thing about this matchup, guys, I feel like a lot of people initially are going to start leaning towards, Zhang Weili to beat Shevchenko. I've seen her now being the underdog, I believe. Like, she started off as the favorite, but she's now the underdog. But I've just always favored Valentina Shevchenko in this matchup, in my opinion. I do think this fight will go to decision, and I do see Valentina being able to win this fight by out-damaging Zhang Weili here, and avoiding a lot of the takedowns of Zhang Weili, and that's just my opinion, guys. I think both girls have been mixing in more takedowns. in their careers as of recently, and I think that Valentina has utilized them a lot recently against Fiora, which I picked Shevchenko to win, by the way. I'll say that. She was an underdog in that fight, and I picked her to win as well. So this is all to say that I do anticipate that there might be takedown attempts in this fight. Many moments of them. There will be many grappling moments in this fight, I believe. I think both girls will initiate the grappling too. I see both girls shooting, but I feel like I've watched Zhang Weili lose more striking exchanges throughout a bunch of her fights than I have seen Shevchenko lose pure striking exchanges through most of her fights. That's the big thing here, guys. Zhang is incredibly strong. She's physical. She's got great cardio. She's incredibly well-rounded. I'm a big fan of her, guys. You know, like, people in my live stream know how much of a big fan I am of Zhang Weili, but Valentina is also all of those things that Zhang is, on top of being incredibly technical on the feet. And I do think that Zhang will be the more physical, more powerful fighter here, but I don't see the advantage being significant enough to matter in this fight, especially with this fight staying on the feet is with how I see it going. Zhang will have to cover some distance in this fight, and I just see Shevchenko getting the better of the exchanges there on the feet, guys. Valentina is a better counter-striker. She's got cleaner boxing, she's got better kicks, and she overall has way more experience striking against high-level strikers than Zhang Weili has, and this is coming from someone that believes Zhang Weili got robbed against Rose Namajunas in the rematch, guys. So I do really like Zhang Weili. I probably have a bias towards her, if anything, and I just think she's incredible, but I don't think she is enough to get through Valentina Shevchenko here. That's just my opinion, guys. Moving on to the main event of the evening, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. And there are so many factors going into this one, guys. And of course, we know, to start us off, Islam is a big lightweight. He won't be completely undersized for the welterweight division, but this is still him stepping up a weight class to verse a guy that will be bigger than him, a significantly better striker than him, and the current champion of a division. It's JDM, guys. Like, he's awesome. There's also the fact that Islam, in his fight with Dustin Poirier, did show a lot of weaknesses in his defense, in the striking, especially towards the clinch and the body shots. Like, a DP was just ripping body shots on Islam Makhachev in that fight. Like, if you go watch it back, especially like against the cage, like, he was ripping them really hard. Islam looked pretty solid on the feet, though. I will say that. I won't, like, you know, downplay him too much. But this is a Poirier at the end of his career. He started losing more of the striking exchanges to a lot of other people, not just to Islam in the first place. So, and I'll be honest, guys, I don't see Islam having anywhere near the level of success in the striking as he's had in prior matchups, like in his fight with Volkanovski or in his fight with Dustin Poirier, when I compare them both to JDM. It really is a night and day difference, guys. He's a young guy. He's only improving. JDM's 29 years old. Like, he's 29. He's just starting to enter his prime. The man's ability to learn is so high level. His takedown defense, his ability to scramble when he does get taken down, and his ability to switch into his own offensive trips and submissions is really improved a lot. And you can see it from his fight against Belal Muhammad. I do worry about his ability to be held down in this fight, though, and controlled on the ground. And I do think there's a good chance that Islam will take him down early and have him in some poor positions in the grappling, especially early on in this fight. That's my biggest worry. But if Islam can't finish JDM in those first 2 rounds, in my opinion, like by submission, I see him slowing down in this fight, and I see him losing more and more exchanges on the feet to the point where I believe he's going to be TKO'd against the cage, in my opinion. As a prediction, I'm leaning towards Jack Della Maddalena to defeat Islam Makhachev by late rounds TKO, just because I believe he truly won't be able to handle the size and striking ability of JDM at all, especially as he starts to get tired and potentially get more of his takedowns attempts stuffed whilst dealing with the forward pressure of JDM, guys. I do worry about JDM in this fight. Like I mentioned, though, guys, those first 2 rounds are going to be critical to avoid submission attempts and avoid the wrestling. But ultimately, people really underestimate how much more tired you can get when you're grappling a guy that might be 20 to 30 pounds heavier than the guys that you normally are used to grappling with. And JDM should be nowhere near the size of underdog that he is right now. That's something I do want to mention. He's like a plus 225 underdog. I just don't agree with that at all. I think Islam should be a favorite, but slightly, guys. But when I just think about this fight, I just want to mention that this would be the biggest win in Aussie MMA. Like, since Volk beat Max the 3rd time, like in the trilogy, this would probably be the biggest win ever. I really do think he can be the one to defeat Islam. And if you guys can't tell already, This makes for 3 underdog picks in a row. The feature fight, the co-main, and main event are all underdog picks, guys. So wish me luck here. That's my prediction for the main event, and that wraps up my full card predictions and breakdown for the entire UFC 322 Della Maddalena and Makhachev fight card. And if you guys have any thoughts for me or any questions for me regarding the card or regarding any of these picks, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section below, and I will do my best to respond to every single comment I get. Please join the Discord, guys, if you want to have a chat with me or send me messages in there, or put your subscribers bet of the week in there as well. I did put a bit of effort into making the Discord. Thanks for watching the video, and see you guys next time.